Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Urbana Public, I did it again, old habits. You know, I do. As a member of the original task force, it's been 14 years and I still want to say Public Arts and Culture Commission. And it's the Urbana Arts and Culture Commission. I can grow up and do this right. On Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. It's so nice to see a lot of people in the room again. Maybe this is a positive sign that things are going to continue this way again. It got kind of lonesome for a while during the pandemic. So, Rachel, I believe you're going to call the roll. We want to call this a meeting to order.
Commissioner Headland?
Present.
Commissioner Buckman is excused. Commissioner Rodriguez? Present. Commissioner Macon?
Present.
Commissioner Pinilla is excused. Commissioner Fuller is excused. Commissioner Rose is excused. Commissioner Shine?
Here.
Oh, we hear him. Here by phone. Commissioner Bailey is excused, but will join us next month. And we have with us Commissioner Modica, who technically is already off of the commission, so recently left, but I asked Frank to come here so we could recognize him, which I'll do during my staff report. I don't think you need to say you're here, but he is here. Terrific.
Well, we want to thank you for your service to the commission and to the city of Urbana, Frank. Okay. Do we have any approval of minutes for the previous meetings, or we're going to table those?
We'll table those to next month's meeting.
Do we have any additions to the agenda today?
We do. We have E. and Miana Smith Stamps of Champaign County Bailout Coalition will present the Urbana Arts Grant. And we also have Lisa Kessler presenting a final report for Summer Rhythm Public Mural, another Urbana Arts Grant final report. So those two will also be added to the grant presentations this evening. And I don't yet see with us Eric Schacht of See You at the Show, so it is possible that he will not present this evening, but we'll see if he's able to make it.
Okay, great, thank you. Do we have any public input for the meeting today?
We do.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I guess this is mostly for the recording. My name is Miriam Larson. I am an Urbana resident and also the executive director of the Urbana Champaign Independent Media Center. And I know some of you, many of you, and thank you for your service on the commission. I really appreciate this work and am here to just give a word of advocacy and hope for the future of the program. Okay. So I'm concerned about the continuity of this program that my organization, the Urbana Champaign Independent Media Center, has worked closely with and with great benefit to us and our broader community. I understand that Rachel Storm is no longer going to be in this position after early August, and I think it's of paramount importance that that this position be filled promptly. And so I would ask you all as commissioners whether you have more information you can share. And in my opinion, there's two things that need to happen. One, the arts coordinator position needs to be hired no later than September 15th. And two, the current arts coordinator should be hired on a contractual basis to ensure that no break in programming or coordination happens, and also that the next person is adequately trained. With regards to filling the position of Urbana Arts and Culture Coordinator, I haven't seen a posting for the position, and the only position I saw was a posting for a part-time support person. I'm wondering if that position has been hired for?
No, that position has not been hired for.
Okay. Do you know why? It seems like those applicants could be a good candidates to provide staff transition for the program. And so I would encourage us to find out who those applicants were and whether those could be people that could help fill the gap. Secondly, providing continuity is key to the continued success of the program and for the ease of new staff coming in. I certainly came in after a period of no staff at the IMC. It is really hard work to rebuild those systems and those processes. And I know I've seen Rachel do a lot for new grantees, learning how to write grants, even supporting me as I figure out sort of what the IMC's role in providing venue space for grantees has been. Over the years, IMC has hosted on average 70% of arts grants events. So this is a really important program, not just something that I appreciate as an individual, but also the sort of economic benefit to my nonprofit is really significant. So it's really important to me that we sustain the program. I've only been in my role for 2.5 years, and I've seen the support for local artists, including both professional and emerging artists. The IMC has been fortunate enough to weather COVID, and some of the support came from the Urbana Arts Grant. So we have a 5,000 square foot venue. We have to pay utilities and all these things on it, and the funding we get matters. One of the stories that came to mind as I thought about sort of the support the program has provided is last year in May of 2021, a young man came into the IMC office with a plan for a 2-day festival. This was a high schooler. I was like, there's no way this high schooler knows how to plan a 2-day arts festival with film and music and visual art, but he'd been an intern with the Urbana Arts and Culture program. And as I saw a poster come about, a table of musicians and their tech needs sent through Google Drive, I was like, wow, this kid really knows what he's doing. And they were able to fund at the full rate rental of our venue. When the event came about, this was the first year after high schoolers had survived quarantine, and the joy and eagerness for them to see each other, and then the incredible talent they brought we converted our back alleyway, Cherry Alley, into an outdoor venue. And oh my gosh, the talent that they shared was just incredible that day. It was one of my favorite memories of 2021. And so things like this, I want to see continue, and I think we need to make sure we have that staffed so that we can do that. So I'm eager to hear what your plans are to make sure that we have this position filled and can provide continuity, and I'm happy to help in whatever way I can. Thank you.
I don't believe there's additional public comment at this time, and I don't believe any was received by email.
Okay, great. We wouldn't want to leave anybody out. I have to second her feelings as a longtime member of this commission. We all recognize the contributions you've made and the great developments that have happened in your tenure here. And I want to applaud you and ask everybody to give Rachel our thanks. The program has really grown under your leadership.
Thank you.
But now you have to give a staff report.
I'm going to try to keep it brief because I know we have a lot of folks with us today, and I want to prioritize the presentation. So hold me to it. Do you mind if I remove my mask just to give a presentation?
No, you're far enough away.
Okay, folks, this is your July staff report from the Arts and Culture Coordinator. And I want to begin with a welcome with Dr. Alicia Rodriguez joining us and Dr. Bianca Bailey joining us next month as our 2 newest commissioners on the Arts and Culture Commission. They each bring a wealth of information, and I'm going to be working individually with both of them to develop commissioner bios where we'll highlight them as we have our other commissioners on. Oh, thanks. I'm sorry. This is the staff report. We're welcoming 2 new commissioners, Dr. Alicia Rodriguez and Dr. Bianca Bailey. cultural coordinators, Latinx studies aficionados, professors, with Dr. Bianca Bailey, local saxophonist, experimental musician. I'm just so excited to have these perspectives on our board and to welcome you both, but particularly you who's with us today, Dr. Rodriguez, to joining our commission. We also have some recent commissioners, such as Mark Anthony Macon, and many other of our more recent commissioners. And I do have to take a moment to recognize Frank Modica, who I begged to come today because Frank had to actually miss what was sort of technically his last meeting. So I said, well, you have to come to another meeting so we can recognize you for your time. Frank, it has been phenomenal to have you on our commission. Frank is a 30-year veteran of special education and came with some really wonderful insights around that. His work as a published poet has helped us really look at our Youth Poet Laureate and Poet Laureate programs when we did something called the Sensory Sensitive Community Concert, really designed to look at how we can provide musical education programs for folks on the autism spectrum and who are neurodivergent. Frank also lent his expertise towards those programs, and so it's just been wonderful to have you and have you serve on juries and be a part of the commission. I look forward to seeing your continued work in poetry flourish locally. I've encouraged him to apply for things like future Poet Laureate positions, and I just think in general it's been a gift to have you involved. So thank you, Frank, for your energy. Next, Frank, you're totally invited to stay for this whole meeting, but since it is a long one, you are not obligated to. You are not obligated to stay at the whole meeting anymore, commission meetings, but I absolutely welcome you to. I want to share a few information about staffing updates, which I tend to include in all of these meetings. As it was noted, I did give a notice of my resignation, and my last official day is August 9th, which incidentally is our next commission meeting, so I will be leading our next commission meeting as the last thing I do in this role, and I'm excited for that. The city does invite commissioner feedback on the job and the nature of the Arts Commission work, and they're in the process of reviewing the job description right now in preparation for posting the position. With respect to the part-time program specialist position, the hiring process continues to be delayed and no interviews yet have been scheduled. The Arts and Culture program did receive, as I mentioned in the previous staff report, a $4,500 Illinois Arts Council Summer Youth Employment Grant to hire 2 high schoolers. Given the staffing changes, we've decided to forfeit that grant this year, and it's hopefully been noted with the Arts Council that it is solely due to staffing issues, and we hope that we'll still qualify for it in the future. The program has had that grant a number of years in a row, so we hope we'll continue to have that in the future. We do continue to follow COVID-19 guidance. We're utilizing health guidance for in-person programs and events. And I have a few updates specifically related to our programs, and I want to begin by talking about our grant program. As you know, 30 projects were funded spanning theater, dance, film, visual arts, murals, and more in 2022. We also funded a record number of festivals, so we expect a pretty large amount of festivals in Urbana this late summer and early fall. And we offered an orientation, which almost all grant recipients attended, to give an overview of grant guidelines and reporting expectations. We did have a number of our 2021 and 2020 grants that had been extended or delayed due to COVID-19 be able to recently complete projects or since the spring. This, of course, included a number of public art installations, namely murals, that you'll hear about this evening, installed in downtown Urbana. I want to speak about the sculpture project in Urbana. In the absence of a national call for sculptures managed in partnership with Public Art League, the Urbana Arts and Culture program has moved to renew the following sculpture rentals for another year. Pictured here in the lower bottom is Peek Between the Trees by Mark Crucky, Ice Pops by Craig Gray, as you can imagine, is the stacked popsicles. Both sculptures, along with What is the Good there in the middle, were repaired and restored this past month as part of the renewal agreement. Stranger Reduction Zone, not pictured here, but in front of the Urbana Free Library, did receive a new arts label. It was cracked due to weather, so we continue to try to do maintenance and repair on different public art. We also, in the lower right corner, you'll see Races by Bobby Joe Scribner. He's out of, where is he out of? I'm forgetting, North Illinois. But he had his renewed through a generous private donation from Eric Robeson of Public Art League. And so we thank Eric Robeson. Our goal is to continue to renew that sculpture until we've purchased it and have it actually permanently placed in Urbana. It will be eventually moved to the lawn of the city building. The piece has actually been along the race route for the Illinois Marathon, so it will continue to be there. We also have a new, we had our piece Fanfare, which incidentally is the first sculpture ever placed by the Arts Commission. And that's Fanfare by Sean Morin. That was moved from next to the former Iron Post to over by Rose Bowl Tavern, kind of in front of Mesquita Grill in downtown. It's an ode to live music. Fittingly, we decided to put it over by Rose Bowl. And the agreement to move it was because business owners who will be revitalizing that corner committed to purchasing or renting a sculpture through us for placement in the coming spring. We are kind of in a holding pattern with the Public Art League. They're going through some changes as an organization, so they had delayed their national call. But typically, we collaborate with them through a contract, and then we select sculptures through that national call. So that will happen again in the spring, and we'll have that to look forward to. I also want to mention, of course, the Great Art Doors. This is our collaboration with both Champaign and Urbana Park Districts, 40 North, and Spurlock Museum. It represents a wonderful collaboration funded primarily through Spurlock, although we contribute for the placement of the one that's here at the city building. And that's right here. It's a triptych by Kathy Mysick. So you could see it on the front lawn of the city building now. But if you go around Urbana to various parks and community gardens, you'll see that all have been installed. So you'll see some posts coming out about that related to the installation of 11 pieces throughout Champaign and Urbana, 6 in Urbana, 5 in Champaign, and we're really excited about how beautiful they all are. These all come from local artists, and they'll be on display between now and typically right before frost, so mid-November. I also want to mention Urbana's Utility Box Mural Program. As you know, this is the first 4 murals, utility box murals that we had. Convergent Evolution by Eka, Greenhouse by Megan Hines on Main Street, Quiet Mend by Lisa Kessler, who joins us this evening, over at the Lake House at Crystal Lake Park, and Guilt Trip by Black Mao on Main and Illinois streets, Main and Vine streets. And I want to mention, of course, our most recent installation. So this was Cloudscape 7 by Christopher Morris, installed just last week in downtown Urbana at the corner of Race and Griggs Street. The public attended a ribbon cutting and unveiling celebration on Friday, July 15th at 4. And we are planning some additional utility box installations in the latter half of this year. So thank you, especially to our commissioners, both Commissioner Macon and Commissioner Hedlund, who attended this ribbon cutting.
That last picture that you took, the first one you showed, it actually looks like the cloud is coming right out of
I know, that's what I love about this image.
It was a perfect shot.
It's just tremendous. This is a beautiful piece and a great addition to the program. I also want to mention, we've had a lot of movement around murals. You'll probably have seen that in the news, but a number of murals are now gracing windows in downtown Urbana buildings. The first, of course, installed this past April is the Reading is Magic mural by Langston Alston, which included the participation of 65 community members in the design and painting of that mural, and an unveiling ceremony attended by over 100 community members. We were really thrilled. And here we are cutting the ribbon. It's been our trend to cut ribbons for public art, and I think it's a wonderful trend. Here we have Prairie Roses by Kinsey Fitzgerald. This was installed at Rose Bowl Tavern in downtown Urbana, and it's sponsored by former Arts and Culture Commission Chair Pat Salmon, who donated $3,000 in support to make this mural possible. It spans the north side of the building and pays homage to native plant life and the growth of live music at the venue. And here is another photo of it. We also have Urbana Enlightened, the new mural by Rafael Blanco, an Illinois-based artist who hails from Aurora and will be with us this evening, at the Urbana Adult Education Center. And it actually centers and features the likenesses of 5 students and 1 child that actually are current students at the Adult Education Center. It celebrates the diversity of the Education Center student body and celebrates the important work of this local education program. And here we are at the ribbon cutting. And next we have Summer Rhythm by Lisa Kessler, installed within the past 2 weeks on the north facade of 25 O'Clock Brewing Company. The design is bright, abstract, and playful. The public is invited to a ribbon cutting celebration this Thursday, July 21st at 4 p.m. to commemorate this grant-funded mural. It's a beautiful addition to that corner. And I need to also mention, with the support of Urbana Arts Grants, local artist Echo will also be installing an augmented reality mural on the front facade of Broadway Food Hall in the coming month. This is a unique and groundbreaking mural for our area. We don't have an AR mural in this region, we don't think. And you'll be able to kind of control it through a device, which will be a really interesting viewing experience. It'll be installed in the month of August, and a ribbon cutting and unveiling celebration will follow. So as you can see, there's quite a number of public art installations going in, and here's some examples of some of the repair work going on. Ice Pop's got a whole facelift. Looks really great. Next up is Cinema and Sound. We recently had our outdoor movie on July 14th, a collaboration with Urbana Dance Company, Harsh Pro, and we screened the film Pina, which is a wonderful dance documentary about choreographer Pina Bausch. And we were well attended. We also had performances by Urbana Dance Company students. About 15 students performed. Next up, I want to mention the Urbana Poet Laureate is a project of the Mayor's Office and the Arts and Culture Program. And we have now entered what will be our 3rd cycle of the Poet Laureate. We're currently underway with a search for Urbana's next Poet Laureate, and I hope to have an announcement at next meeting. Urbana's Youth Poet Laureate, on the other hand, Denilah Nash, which the program is made possible through the Urban Word New York City collaboration that we have. She's been really active. So Denilah, who has a full biography in your staff report, has had a number of engagements thus far, and they've included her inauguration celebration, a Boneyard Arts Festival Meet the Youth Poet Laureate event, and a featured performance at the Odyssey Project's Writing for Discovery public reading. She invites everyone to join her tomorrow evening for a sharing of original poetry, music, and spoken word in a public showcase for the community. Anyone can sign up to present, and that'll be at the Urbana Free Library from 6:30 to 7:30 in the Lewis Auditorium tomorrow night. And here's the advertisement for that. I also want to mention that our Young Artist Studio was a special feature. So this is our collaboration with the Urbana Free Library, offering free arts education initiatives to youth. We had a special feature this month with the Illinois Shakespeare Festival, and they had put us on their tour list this year, something I've tried to get us on every year. They get this grant for a program they call Theater for Young Audiences. They presented Much Ado About Quite a Lot by Nancy Steele Brokow and Lori Adams, and we will continue to offer Young Artist Studio workshops in our normal curriculum going forward with the library. Here's some pictures from the presentation down in the Boneyard Creek this past weekend. Want to acknowledge Art Now. For new commissioners, we mentioned at last meeting, but it bears mentioning again. They did receive the Best of the Midwest Award of Merit at the media conference for Art Now. That is our TV series featuring local artists that airs every month. This upcoming feature will have Denilah Nash, our Youth Poet Laureate, on it talking about her experiences in the arts. We also need to mention Raw Tools. This is an event effort going on among lots of different community organizations coming together to envision creative solutions to ending gun violence. Turning guns into garden tools is at the center of the work of Raw Tools. Their work enables storytelling and stories, magnificent transformation, as well as deep trauma of grief and loss. The events are taking place in both Champaign and Urbana, and the Urbana Arts and Culture Program will be participating in the Sunday event here in Urbana, where we really are focused on creative art making for all families and people of all ages related to gardens and art. Next up, I want to discuss briefly Art in Transit. This is the Urbana Arts and Culture Program teaming up with CUMTD to pilot a new public arts initiative where we invite local artists to have artwork displayed on downtown bus shelters. The first program will feature the bus shelter on the corner of Illinois and Race Streets that's adjacent to the Urbana Free Library, and it's actually the one that's pictured here on the far left. Selection and installation should occur this summer. Next up, I want to just mention that we do have currently on display Kathy Mysick's work. It is referred to as Art is a Bridge. And our Artist of the Corridor exhibits will take a pause after this exhibit comes down. This is what's here in our corridor because we are having construction on our corridor starting soon here at the City Building. But we will continue that as a project of both the City Hall and the Urbana Free Library with a collection of images from Dee Brown's daughter, and it's going to be called Dee Brown: A Visual History, photographs of the life of author Dee Brown, who authored Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, and he's a former U of I professor. That'll be at the Urbana Free Library for the remainder of the summer, and then we'll have another feature of illustrations at the library going forward. I have to mention our street pole banners. These you'll see up and about downtown. We welcomed art from 8 different artists, including our very own Mark Anthony Macon, before he was on the commission. And it's really exciting to have all this work on display. So be sure to check them out when you're around downtown. I mentioned in my staff report Imagine Urbana, but we're going to have them here with us this evening, so I don't need to say much more about that. I'll save it for their presentation. Do you have any questions about what you heard in the staff report?
Anyone? No?
All right,
I
then
guess
thank
not.
you.
We can move on to grant presentations now.
Excellent.
Are we staying in the order that's listed on the
Yeah.
the sheet? So we're going to welcome Kelsey Langley of Coop Adventure Play to present the final report for the 2020 Urbana Arts Grant. Art Play Urbana. Welcome.
Hello. Hello. So first of all, I just want to say we're now in 2022. I realize we're really going backwards in time here, reviewing this grant that we received in February of 2020. Sure. Does that help? Okay, thanks. So yeah, February of 2020, we received happily an event to put on 16 community events really aimed at activating neighborhoods and places where children and family live to bring public art there for a few hours throughout the summer. So what we do is bring lots of materials from paint to cardboard to tape to fabric. You name it, we probably bring it with for the people to use and just activate that space for that evening, which always feels really magical, feels like an opportunity to get to know the community right out where they live, and also to form these relationships with people, some of whom, as you know, we've had multiple grants for this, and we also do this outside of our Urbana Arts Grant, and some of these relationships where we really get to see people really bringing forth what's in their mind and really bringing that out into the world, and it's really wonderful and special. So we were thrilled to receive this grant with the intention of growing and doing even more events than we had done before. Really focused on nurturing children's sense of creativity, giving them permission to explore their curiosity and follow their things they're wondering about or their whims. I included a couple pictures of what that's looked like in the past because that was the original intention of this grant. So these are actually from the 2019 set of events that we did. You can see that it ends up being all ages where families come together and community members get interested. But then we were interrupted pretty quickly after getting that exciting news, which certainly threw us for a loop. These events, I guess on the premise that we can always be together and that's one of the wonderful things, but we were of course not allowed to be together. So we did a pretty quick pivot. On March 17th, I kind of started doing different kinds of events, trying to focus on how could we make an impact? How could we bring something playful and something creative to people apart and make them feel like we're connected and together? And so we partnered with multiple community organizations like Chambana Moms or Museum at the Grand Prairie, and staying in touch with Rachel through all of it. I did a virtual play date with Chambana Moms, trying to give families ideas of how they could use some of their regular items at home and kind of give permission to see them in a new way and in a more creative way, maybe. We helped put on the Chambana Bear Hunt, which was like a scavenger hunt in neighborhoods. We did Chalk Your Walk events, which included a news appearance on WCIA, really trying to kind of send those community messages out. Even though we couldn't share with one another, being able to chalk things out on the walk together for each other to enjoy. There was a Hearts for Healthcare workers, which was essentially public displayed art from your home in a kind of a group event. Similar partnership through Haiku from Home, See You on Earth Day, See You Sing Along, Art in a Time of Quarantine. And then there were also some YouTube daily invitations for creative play that we tried out there in some of those early days where families were just newly home, wondering what they should be, possibly how they can fill all this time they have in this stressful time, and trying to just offer something playful, something creative to forge those bonds and to get people through those hard times. So in the end, it ended up being around 11 virtual events. There were 13 of these daily invitations to create. And it's a little tricky to measure the impact of it. When I went through and kind of counted what is countable on social media, I counted over 4,000 between all of these. But I'm fairly certain that it's much more. It's really hard to measure how many people share and how many of their friends share and so forth. So it's really hard to actually get a picture of how many people this potentially touched. It also doesn't account for the fact that this engaged a lot of families, and maybe it's only one adult in the home who has the social media who clicked that they engaged with it. So it's hard to measure, but I feel like 4,000 is a really big number, and really proud of what we were able to do in such a really hard time. I think because of the way that crisis felt, it's also nearly impossible to measure the impact of this connection that we were able to form and that we were able to hold. And that we jumped in. If you notice the dates from those other slides, I mean, we were having the news of shutdowns coming on March 11th, March 12th, and by March 17th, we were moving. We were trying to find a way to offer something when we couldn't be together. So really trying to, this is one of the things that I chalked on one of my neighborhood corners in this together, and that's really how it felt with these community organizations. Stepping up and partnering and trying to offer creative outlets for connection even when we couldn't be together. I definitely want to thank Rachel for her support and understanding and extension, and I just really can't thank you enough for that, and through the other years for the other grants as well. So, and of course, thank you to the commissioners for selecting us again. Thank you.
Questions or comments from commissioners?
I just want to say that I saw lots of those chalk installations, so to speak, and it really just as a person felt good to see that. It was nice to see that even if we couldn't see everyone, we could still communicate, even when we're not right in front of each other, and it was nice. It was really heartening, and thank you for that.
I'm glad. I certainly felt that way too.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I
You're very
have
welcome.
one other question. Are you hoping to extend it somehow, whether you get grant funding or not, in some kind of more informal way?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Are you hoping to extend this program in some kind of informal way or some kind of
Yeah,
informal?
I think I think everyone probably resonates that your capacity's probably changed since the pandemic, and I think that's where we are as an organization, is our capacity's changed, and we're working on building that up, but it's definitely the intention to get back out into neighborhoods and really have a heart for meeting people right where they live and bringing exciting experiences to their neighborhood park or community garden or vacant lot. So I really hope to be back to that soon. Yeah.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It would appear that Eric is not here yet, or maybe not coming. So let's skip to Lauren Chambers of the Urbana Free Library to present the final report for the 2021 Urbana Arts Grant Magic of Reading Mural. Welcome, Lauren.
Hello. Let me just pull this up. There we go. All right, so this is for our 2021 Urbana Arts Grant. And for this, we basically hired artist Langston Alston, who is a local artist but now lives in New Orleans. And we're able to work out his schedule so that he would come back to Urbana for a little bit of time and help create a community mural. We wanted it to be literacy themed, and we wanted to focus on really the diversity in Urbana and make it very community centered. So part of our process was we were able to put together a community group who actually helped design the mural and had input on what it looked like. And I'll show you that design in just a little bit with what they came up with. And then for the painting itself, we thought, you know, how often do people actually get to do this? Or talk to a muralist, or really get to try their hand at it themselves? So part of the design, it had to be something where the community members could sign up to help and also paint and get some experience actually getting to paint a mural, because we knew people would be really excited about that. And as you can see by the number of painters that we had help us, people were very excited. This was a very successful program. We had 5 people who helped do the workshop. We actually had a waiting list for others who were interested in helping with the design. 76 people who helped paint. We actually had more people come than had showed up. And then for our ribbon cutting ceremony, I thought it was around 50, but Rachel, you are a better judge of numbers than I am. So maybe it was a little closer to 100.
Yeah.
But it touched a lot of people, and we got really great feedback. There were so many people who would say, you know, thank you so much for offering this. We were really excited about it. When we unfortunately had all of our painting slots full, we had people emailing and saying, you know, can I get on a waiting list? I really want to try and get a time to paint as well. So this are what our murals ended up looking like. They were on the, this is the east and the west side of the Cunningham Township building, which is directly across from the library. And I'll talk about the design in just a little bit. But then we also have this one, which has a funny backstory for it. So our mural went from one mural to 2 murals and one that was up for just a little bit of time. But I just wanted to show you what the final products looked like. And these were all things that community members got to help paint. So the beginning of the mural, this is actually the design that was first made by our design committee. Was actually about April of last year. April to May is when the design happened. And as you can see, it's on a different building from the township building, because that was one of the things that came up for us. And the one thing I do want to highlight is we had this set as sort of a literacy themed, but as the community members talked, they wanted it to be very emblematic of Urbana and very emblematic of also the art scene at Urbana. So we incorporated music, which we have musical instruments at the library that people can also check out. You have the book, but you also have groups that are across different ages. And it's a very diverse group of people there. And we wanted a sense of community coming together. And even some of the plants in the background, there was a lot of discussion of native plants. So a lot of the plants you're seeing in the background are actually based off of native plants. Just don't ask me what they are right now, because now that I'm thinking about it, the names have gone out of my mind. So let's kind of go through the life of the mural. So as you saw, we ended up, actually I'm going to go back one if I can. We were supposed to do it on this building, and a a little while after we got done with this design, we realized that that building actually had issues, and there was a chance that it was going to come down. So of course, we did not want to paint the mural on that building, and it took us a little bit of time to figure out what was going to happen with it. But we did eventually realize that the building was going to have to be demolished. So we, of course, were not going to paint there. And that's when we reached out to the township because we had heard they had been interested at one point having a mural by Langston on their building. And they very graciously agreed to be the site for this mural. This wall, though, is much longer. So that's how you got from this design to the final two pieces, because it's this design, but we've kind of broken in half. Okay, so the painting actually happened on April 12th to the 19th of this year. And I just want to walk you through kind of what it looks like. So Langston would go ahead and kind of make the outline for everything. And then right after that point, community members could start helping him. So you can see people in the next one, they're putting on sort of the base coat. Very quickly, it starts looking like this, where you've got the rest of the base coats down, more details are coming out. We let people sign up for an hour at a time so that we could get, we knew a lot of people were going to want to paint, which was so that a lot of people could have a chance to do it. This is the other side. Two different groups of people painting. This was all in the same day. I believe this one on the left hand was also the same day. This mural came together very quickly. And one of the things I just wanted to mention here is that Langston Allison did a really great job when he was doing the designs of keeping in mind that this was going to be a community painting project and making sure that there were pieces that multiple community members could help with. That's why you have some of the plants like they are in the background. So someone could be working on that while someone else worked on the guitar. And in particular, this sweater that you see the person with the baby holding, you can see in the first image, some people are just painting dark like X's and hash marks on there. And then that entire sweater was created over layers of different people adding in the next part and the next part. So I just wanted to point out what a good job he did in trying to incorporate elements into the design to make sure that community members would be able to help. Having said that, though, as I said before, we had more people show up. Sometimes someone would show up, but they were actually signing up for a household instead of our intention of everyone signing up individually. And so by the last day, we realized that we didn't have as much of the mural left to paint as we would like for people to be able to help. So he very graciously said, you know the building that's right next door that is going to come down. If you're okay with it, I'd be willing to do another mural on that this last day so that the people who have signed up will still be able to paint. And we were very grateful that he let us do this. And someone jokingly said, you could paint anything on there, you could paint smiley faces on there. And that turned into, though, this. So that entire mural you saw in that big image was done in the course of one day by him and by some people helping as well. Then we had our ribbon cutting later that week. And just to give an idea again of the number of people who came, and the ceremony was wonderful. I have to say, having a ribbon cutting for a mural, it went together so well. We were able to ask those who had painted to come back. We had at least 2 different news outlets there that were covering it as well to help share it with the community. And the one thing that we were able to do that I was very proud of is that when we invited all the people who had painted to come back, we wanted to make sure that they were acknowledged for the work they had done and that they felt like, you know, sometimes people say, well, I'm not really an artist, I just dabble. I just do a little bit of work. I'm not really an artist. I'm not that good. We wanted them to feel like the artist that they are. No matter their age group, no matter what they were doing, how they were able to help, and to acknowledge the time they put in the mural. So they were invited to come and sign the mural as well. So we designed an area where they could sign. And those who weren't able to come, there was a paint pen that we have that then stays at the township. So people were told that, okay, if you can't make the ribbon cutting, go to the township when it's open, tell them you're there to help sign to paint the mural, you want to sign it, and you can sign whatever side you painted or you felt like you had the biggest impact on. And so it was just a very special project because it really let us connect the arts in a kind of tangent way to a large group of people of all ages and different backgrounds. And it was just it was a project we've been wanting to do something like this for a while, and we were very grateful that we received the grant to be able to do it. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Questions or
Questions?
comments for Lauren?
Langston is a phenomenal talent and such a sweet guy, and I think we're just really lucky to have him associated with this town. So thank you so much for doing something to keep him somewhat tethered to us. And also, I'm really a big proponent of, art projects that get the community together, especially for people that think that they aren't artists but really are. So that was a nice part of this too. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Was that your idea?
Yeah, it was, when we were first talking about doing a mural at the library, it only made sense for us to do it if we could make it into a community art event and make it so that people could also get experience doing at least, whether they wanted design or paint, we really wanted it to be community centered at every level as much as possible.
Lauren, I have to tell you, I've had the funniest time answering questions about the building that came down.
I saw the article in the
People
News
really,
Gazette.
yeah, also in the News Gazette, someone wrote in, and then Tom actually reached out and was like, can you answer this, Rachel? And I was so thrilled to tell the story of that, because it is actually one of Langston's, I think, sort of lessons that he gave to people connecting with him over those days was, art is ephemeral. Art comes and goes, and in many ways, like everything that we make is not necessarily here to stay forever, and it's like the act of making is just as important. So it was, it's been really funny because I still field questions. People loved that mural that lived for 2 weeks.
Oh, it was fantastic. I loved it when it was done, and we made sure that those who were painting knew that that it was going to come down at some time, and it was going to come down relatively soon.
Yeah.
But we wanted to get them, to have them still be able to paint and also give them the opportunity to sign too, so that they could get that. We didn't want to turn people away if at all possible.
Go ahead,
Well-
Frank.
Was any of that mural preserved, or was there any way of saving any of it?
Not
Really fancy photos.
Yes, that
Yeah.
really was the way with the way that having the building knocked down and seeing it afterwards, there wasn't really a good way. Unfortunately, there wasn't a way to do it and keep the wall up. It just,
It was a good lesson in letting go.
Well, I believe he's done at least 3 others in town.
Oh, yeah. He's done a number of murals in town.
One at Martin Luther King School and Dr. Preston Williams Jr. School.
Inside the IMC, actually at the building right across from the library, the other building. Yeah, quite a number of local Langston Alston pieces. Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank
Fabulous
you.
work.
It was a good project. Thank you. Our next grant report will be by, is Sarah Christensen here? Yes. Of the University Library to present the final report for the 2021 Urbana Arts Grant Small Press Fest. Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, goodness. I just want to say that this is the second grant that we've gotten from the Urbana Arts and Culture Commission for Small Press Fest, so we really appreciate the support and funding. I just have a website. Okay, here we go. Okay. So we had the Small Press Fest in October of 2021. It was April of 2020. We had it fully online because of the pandemic, so we were able to pivot that way. But 2021, we were still kind of in a weird spot with the coronavirus where people were hesitant to go out. So we had a hybrid. A lot of our events were outside, and then we had the keynote speaker inside, and we tried to mitigate by extending our hours a little bit for the vendor fest and requiring masks and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to take you through the events that we had. This is a little about page. So the Small Press Fest is a celebration of small press publications and DIY artists in Champaign-Urbana and also surrounding areas. We have some artists come from Indiana and St. Louis as well this time. All of our events are free thanks to the Urbana Arts and Culture Commission and the University Library, and also Digital Frontiers, a nonprofit, also sponsored 2 smaller workshops. Okay, so a lot of our events, we try to be creative in building programming that's going to appeal to a wide variety of artists and not repeating the same kinds of things over and over. This year, it happened that we met up with local creators who were focused on teens. So Ashanti Files, Urbana Poet Laureate, did a workshop for teens to explore their identity, engage in creative writing as a coping tool. And she also had her own publication with her that we were able to explore. Erin Tarr did a Be Your Own Rebel workshop. So the Rebel Girls is a global brand dedicated to inspiring and instilling confidence in young girls. We had that at the Literary, which was a new place in downtown Champaign at the time, and we had a good number of girls register for that, so that was really nice to see. Melanie Shekels, Threshold Doula. This was, stretching the limits of our creativity in terms of what counts as Small Press Fest. But we realized that, it's been really hard years for everyone, and so Melanie is wonderful and very gentle with getting people to elicit and express their feelings of grief. We had this outside at the I wrote this down, Delight Flower Farm, which was a really lovely setting for it. That sold out almost immediately. Say sold out, it was all free. But we had to have a waiting list for that. So that was a really, really wonderful event. Our keynote speaker, Golden Brown, we did have in Zoom land. They are in Chicago right now, but we were able to open it up to a wider variety of audience, for people who are all over the country, all over the world. And they are the founder of the Diaspora and Savant Press. And their talk was about creating the world that we want through creative practices. So imagining better futures, which was really lovely at the time, still is. We had our Vendor Expo Day, which is the heart of the Small Press Fest, where creators, poets, anyone, we partnered with the Illinois Extension Master Gardener Program to create zines, and we did a few workshops before the Small Press Fest where their members created zines about topics in gardening that they liked, and then they exhibited at the Small Press Fest and got a lot of interest in their program. And we had a number of other artists come in. There's probably, I am bad at counting, there's probably about 250 people that came in throughout the day for the 4 hours. And we were in a new space. CU Jiu-Jitsu in Lincoln Square Mall has a really beautiful, accessible open floor plan with lots of natural light, full stocked bathrooms, and it seems very basic, but it was a really nice spot, and we had a lot of traffic coming in from the market at the square, and we were able to collaborate too with the Idea Store and the art co-op that's right there. So we purchased some items from them that we had on display and kind of had people running around. Also, during the Small Press Fest, we had at the IMC Zine Library a bookmaking 101, pamphlet stitch and toy books workshop that was happening. And we also, Kofi did a workshop at the last Small Press Fest. This wasn't officially part of our programming, but we wanted to boost him as well. He was doing a workshop happening almost at the same time that we were, so we boosted him a little bit that way. This was a partnership between the university library and the School of Art and Design, and also the Institute of Genomic Biology. So we had a number of different people working on this. We all put in a lot of hours. It was, a great team to work with, and as much as we love working together and this event, we decided we're going to do it biannually from now on, to drum up a little bit of interest every year. So look forward to Small Press Fest 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Just a quick comment. So Small Press Fest, I trace a little bit to the Midwest Zine Fest and the Maker Fest that existed at the IMC as well, and honestly trace the IMC's roots to things like the different sort of zine conferences. And I'm just, I'm thrilled to see that work continue in some way, shape, or form. And the fact that a bunch of university librarians have also taken it up is very, very special. I know librarians at the university have also helped be stewards for the zine library, like Catherine Labar and others. And I just am really grateful for that work.
Yeah, thank you. We certainly do love it.
Any questions or comments for Sarah? Go ahead, Frank. And Sarah, I'm sorry, real quick, push in your power cord on the laptop that's ours, because I think it's telling us that its battery is low.
I am pushing it, nothing's happening.
Oh, well, then I'll sort it out. Frank, go ahead with your comment.
It's back here.
With the small presses, I'm just curious, is there any distribution with it, opportunities for it being printed and kind of a wider exposure for the creators?
Yeah, so that's where the Vendor Expo Day comes in. They do bring a lot of their work there, and it's available for purchase or just to give away. So that usually happens there. We also, it started in 2020, but we, extended it a little bit this year. UMA, which is an RSO on campus, did a little free library, Small Press Fest collaboration where they made zines and stuffed them in little free libraries around town and made a map of that. So that was a little bit extra distribution for people.
And local poets like yourself are invited to showcase their work at the expo, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I will find you for 2023.
All right. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure to welcome Rafael Blanco back so soon to present the final report for his 2021 Urbana Arts Grant, Picturing the City, One Portrait a Day. Long time no see.
Your presentation is minimized on there. Do you see it? There you go.
There you go. Great.
Hello everyone, I'm Rafael Blanco. I'm a public artist. As you can see, I'm wearing my uniform. I'm coming from another mural. I came to Urbana 2 weeks ago to install Urbana Enlighten. And when I was given this site, I was interested at how weird and unique this building is. And as a public artist, my interest is in transforming and changing the site, hopefully for the better. And Usually I work either in sketchy areas or sites that are not pretty. Once I painted a trash compactor, and people thought, "Oh, how unlucky of you that you had to paint a trash compactor." And I'm like, no, it's quite the opposite. It is the whole purpose. I'm trying to change this sketchy alley into something that people are not going to be scared of. And so here the architecture with the windows, with the poles, I wanted to make an installation, something that it is unique. And so the first day, once I had the colors, it looked like, how do you say, a child,
Like Crayolas,
yes, and
crayons.
yes, and then like evolved with the portraits. These are 5 students from the adult education, and sorry, I'm just going to go ahead. And I came 2 weeks before to take photos of them. So these are real people, these are real students that will be using that site. And I'm interested in site specific, meaning I'm not going to do this again. This is for Urbana, for the adult site, and I don't repeat my work because it's unique in that way. So these 5 people represent students, represent kind of their own stories, but yet in a universal way. So I'm always interested in diversity and inclusion and how to create work where it's interesting from a kid to an older person. And that is my goal, to really make work that is for the people, that is for everyone to enjoy. It doesn't mean that you need to like it, but if you saw this building before, it wasn't the prettiest, and I'm not saying that it's pretty now, but it's different. It's something that you pass by and you actually have to see it. It's kind of like calling your attention. As an artist, we are never happy with our work. We are never just kind of like satisfied, but that comes with it. And for me, it's about the experience, about being here. And I think I was painting 5 to 6 days.
Is it a blur?
I don't even remember. And especially because I was working at night too. So I had a light, and so days kind of blend together. And while I'm painting, I always encounter that for me, the most important part is to actually talk to people that are going to see the mural. So when they come up to me, I try to explain the process. For me, it is part of the artwork. It is part of the public art. For me, it's a public service. One of the most amazing things about that week for me is I was painting, and I think it was about midnight. And obviously, everything was dark, and except for the light. I think I'm going to keep passing the slides.
Yeah, go for it.
I completely forgot. And all of a sudden, this car stops just right behind me, and like this lady goes, "Sir, I don't know who you are, but you inspire me. Thank you." And then she drove by, and that to me are those moments that make all that hard work. Sorry, I'm blanking out because I've been working all day, and then I'm also from Spain, so English is my second language. So sometimes I get it's a little bit blurry, but it makes it worthy.
Worthwhile.
These are like some of the references, like some of the materials. I don't project. I actually use the grid system, and that's something that I think people like to see how I do things, because I really explain them my whole secrets. And so this is one. And so the drips, like the background is very colorful, but then there are the drips and where colors are mingling like with each other. And to me, it is actually conceptual, whether you believe it or not. And like what I explain to people is we are like those drips. We are all unique in a way, and yet so similar. So each of the portraits have a main color, but many other colors as well. So that is where diversity and inclusion goes in. I use color in a way that it doesn't represent your ethnicity. I use color in a way to activate the space, to make it visually engaging and interesting. But to me, color is not race. Like if you go to Brazil, you find the whitest to the blackest, and they all feel like very Brazilian. And so that is where I try to educate through my work. So these are some of the shots while I was painting at night. And this is at the ribbon cutting. It was raining. And thank you for those of you that were there. I was actually very impressed that people actually came because it was raining fairly hard. So we were all kind of hiding. And so I really appreciate that I was not the only one there. So my family came, and that was very special. I travel around the country painting murals. So I have an amazing job to be able to connect and to help and to actually get paid as an artist. And it's an amazing feeling. Any questions?
Thank you, first and foremost, Rafael. Well, I already know the answer to my question, but I want to invite you to share what brings you to Urbana right now and how your work is continuing.
So while I was here, I did a presentation at the library, and it was a presentation targeted to people who were interested in public art. So I told my story on how I became a public artist. I was never trained, or I didn't even know about public art until not that long ago. So I actually trained as a classical painter. I was a studio painter. I was trying to sell my work and going like to the galleries and all that, and until I discovered my first public engagement in 2014. It was a 24-hour mural marathon, and that really changed my view. So that is something that I always try to explain, how public art really engages at a different level. And at this talk, there was an architect and the project manager of Fairlawn Real Estate, and they are very interested in including murals in their, I don't know how many buildings they own, but it is unbelievable. So they want to improve visually as well. So they kind of like approached me after the talk. They were very impressed. And right now I'm working on a mural in 204...
805.
805. Awesome.
I think. West Illinois Street.
Thank you, Rachel.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, and it's an apartment complex, and it is going to be completely different from this mural. I'm not going to say what it is, but and I'm going to be here working for the next 6 to 7 days, and I started yesterday. I also want to remark how thankful I am of like the city, but also like to Rachel. I think I encounter people like you, yes, fairly often, and you go well beyond your job. And so thank you for making me feel welcome, but also thank you for being an advocate like for the arts. And as a professional artist, that means a lot. And so So thank you so much.
Thank you, Raphael. Yeah, you'll see more of his work around town. And actually, just to make a comment, the property owner relationship in public art is so deeply important. So knowing that Urbana is growing more and more murals, it's really lovely to see property owners like the one that Raphael's now working with, stepping up and even wanting to privately fund more murals on their own properties. So that's what we want to see. We want to see more murals coming about. I want that for other muralists in this room. And I'm just really excited because I think that we're going to continue to see more public art around town. So thank you and all the people presenting on murals today, because you're really helping us make that possible.
Yeah, I wanted to add, thank you for making that building so much nicer. It always seemed like a jail to me, to be honest. And the rainbow, there's so many things going on in your mural. I just came back from Spain, where my family lives, and I saw an idea that I was thinking to bring for here. There's a town called Gata de Gorgos, where they have they give the people in the town, and also artists around the world, just a large canvas that they paint, and then they hang from the balconies along the streets. And the event, I think, is going to happen next month. And I was thinking, oh, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? That you just give whoever wants to be part of this a canvas. And then for a couple of weeks or so, people do their work, and then they hang it. And I thought that would be a neat thing to happen here. Of course, the architecture is very different here than in Spanish towns. But I thought that would be a really cool thing for something like Urbana.
Yeah.
I'm from Alicante, by the way.
Oh, I'm in Javia.
Yeah,
So we came into Alicante and then went to Javia. Oh, so you know the Gata de Gorgos one?
And then my sister lives in Denia, which is like right next to
right
it.
there, next to Javia. That's so funny. Okay, I just came back a few days ago.
Small world. Small world.
Yeah. Thank you so much for making that a beautiful building.
No, thank you for the opportunity. It is really, it goes both ways, you know.
All right. Thank you, Raphael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel, I just wanted to comment. I remember when the commission started, one of the ideas that we had was that any new buildings over a certain size had to dedicate a portion of that building or their grounds towards public art.
Yeah, that still goes for city buildings. So if it's a municipal building over a certain amount of money, there's a 1% for the arts in our bylaws. Yeah, I think it's fabulous. Next up, we have Lisa Kessler presenting the 21 Urbana Arts Grant Summer Rhythm Public Mural.
Okay, I'm taking.
Yeah, that's all right.
Am I on?
I think so, yes.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Lisa Kessler, and I was thrilled to be able to use one of the Urbana grants this year to create a mural. And it was actually, I guess the grant was awarded last year, but it took a while to locate a property. And it was funny because the property I ended up painting the mural on, I think Rachel brought it up to me earlier, and I was like, no, I don't want, I don't want to do it there because I thought no one would see it, and you'll see why. In retrospect, actually, I love the idea that it's kind of hidden because then it gave me the opportunity to like bring this space to life, and it was really dead. So in a way, that was like a really good challenge that I ended up welcoming, but in the beginning, I just couldn't see it. So sometimes you have to circle back around and give it another chance. So my, just the overall process in creating this mural was, as I just mentioned, finding a location where the building owner was receptive to the idea, and then estimating my budget and presenting that to the board. And then I went through the design process, which, takes quite a while. A few weeks I spent on that, organizing my supplies, my equipment, and then I mixed my own paint rather than having it mixed somewhere else because I'm kind of a control freak where that's concerned. And then the. That sounds better, doesn't it? Control freak. And the business owner at the building location was really helpful. He prepped the wall for me by coating it with a primer, and I specified a color for that, so that really helped me out quite a bit. And then, of course, the final step was the actual painting of the mural. So here is how the building looked before we began. And this is at 208 West Griggs, which is where the 25 O'Clock Brewing Company is located. But this is on the back side of the building so that you don't see this from the entrance. And this faces one of the Urbana City parking lots. So it's honestly not that visible. Well, I didn't think it was. Now I see that it's more visible than I realized because there was nothing on the building. So if you would drive down Race Street, it just disappeared, you know, you just didn't notice it at all. Now that there's color applied to it, it actually is more visible than I had originally thought. So the before and after of this is really, I think, well, I don't know if I can compare it to Raphael's before and after, but it's still pretty, it was pretty exciting. So this is how it looked before. And then I design usually, for this kind of thing anyway, I design digitally. I mean, I'm a painter and, you know, I don't design my paintings digitally, but for this kind of project, I designed it digitally. And then on this image here, you can see the two black horizontal blocks. Those are where the windows of the building are placed. And I wanted to incorporate those actually as part of the design. I'm okay? Oh, okay. Since they are big and dark, I didn't want them to overwhelm my final design, so I took them into account, and I used a lot of black in the design so that it all is balanced and ties in together. And then this is me mixing my paints and my paint swatches. Supplies, and then you can see I printed out, I also, for this project anyway, I used the grid system that Raphael mentioned, and so I had a whole stack of papers. This is the full image, and then I had individual sections on there that were gridded out so that I could use them to draw the design on the surface of the wall. And I created an outline for reference as well. And here's the wall with the primer on it, and then I'm starting to sketch in my shapes and block in everything. And this is after I've started applying some of the colors. You can see it's a cinder block wall. And for the, you know, hard-edged rectangular shapes, I taped them off, obviously, and painted them. But then because the wall has so much texture, when I remove the tape, the edges are still rough, so then I went back again, and everything's got 2 coats of color, just so that I could get nice, vibrant coverage. And it was hot out on some of the days, so you can see my arm is red. And one artist friend, well, you know, Eka locally, had mentioned to me that a friend of hers uses India ink sometimes for outlining. So I decided to try that for some of the black areas, and I ended up just using it. Well, I actually tried it on the previous mural I did in Champaign last month, but I tried it as a base coat for the black areas, and it didn't cover, you know, it wasn't as solid as I wanted, but it was really awesome for just blocking in areas because it's so fluid and so quick. So I have to thank her for that recommendation. So right here I'm using India ink to lay in some of the line areas, line work. And here's just a little progress photo. Some of those black shapes are kind of hazy looking because they only have the India ink layer. They don't have the actual paint on them yet. So that's how they looked when I just started out. And this is kind of just a close-up to see the texture of the wall. This one part is really funky, and I really like it. I mean, the texture, you'd think that would be a negative thing, but I don't know. It just adds some character to the design. So I kind of like painting over texture like that. And I started with the bottom of the wall because I tend to put off the hard stuff until some people get the hard things out of the way first, and I procrastinate. So I did the whole bottom, and then when I had to, I finally did the top. So this is where I was working on the bottom half, happily painting away. And this is, I think, on the last day. I only added a couple little more details. So this section of the wall is nearly finished there. And this is one of the images that the photographer, what was her name? Veronica Mullen. Took the images that you have seen online already, and some of them are beautiful. I think this is my favorite one because I just love the angle of it. So I wanted to include that, and I'll have to send her a note to thank her. And again, this is one of her photos as well, but it really shows up the texture and how the color plays on the texture. There I am up in the upper right on the crazy tall ladder. And I think this is on the next to last day, the day she came by and took some photos. And that is me on the final day. So like I said, it was a really fun start to finish project because I think it really transformed that outdoor space, which I knew it would, and that's what I wanted it to do. But you just don't know until you're finished what effect it's going to have. And I think it really livens up the space, it transforms it, and it's visible from Race Street. It's right next to the Boneyard where there are events. So I think it's just going to really, I hope, change the character of that area. There was someone who commented online, I think it was yesterday, on some of these photos, and she had the best question, I thought. She asked if there was any specific symbolism in any of these shapes, and that's a really good question because looking at it, you might think that there is. But what I told her was that no, there's not any specific symbolism, but I like to use shapes that sort of imply that they may have a meaning. And that can be interpreted different ways, so that way the viewer can look at it and really have fun with it. And I think read into it what they want, or just have some fun rather than me spelling out what they're supposed to think about it. So I like to include shapes that sort of hint at one thing or another, but that are not too specific. And that way the viewer can kind of engage with it themselves and have, I think, a little bit more fun with it. That's it. You're welcome.
Questions for Lisa?
How much sunscreen did you go through?
A lot, and I put a lot on my tattoos. When people do tattoos, they're like, "Now be sure to put sunscreen." So I did, and thankfully, my complexion doesn't burn, and so it was fine. But yeah, I was a different color when I started this than I am now. I have to say that.
Definitely over 100-degree temps, like while you were out
There
at least
were.
a couple days. Yeah.
And it's so funny because I guess I didn't try that hard, but I was really kind of hoping originally that I could have this fall into place where I was trying to avoid the summer. Like really, I don't like summer at all. I don't go out in the summer at all. And so I'm super proud of myself because actually it wasn't that bad. I mean, I think I'm like overly dramatic and a big baby because once I got out there and started working, it wasn't that bad. And I started around 7 o'clock every morning and then quit like at 2 or 3 when I was just completely out of steam. And it worked out really well. I had a nice time visiting with some of the, that's not a really busy parking lot, but there were a few people who parked their bikes there every day, and so I would see them when they left, and then when they came back, and they would visit, and I made some really nice friends during the last couple of weeks just from people who live in that area, so that was kind of fun too. And I told the one man who was really sweet, he checked in on me almost every day, and I said, well, this is your mural, because I'm done, and I'm not even gonna be in this parking lot all that often, and he's there every single day, and I said, here you go, this is your mural. So, yeah.
I think there's some kind of beautiful irony of your apprehension around summer, and then now it's called Summer Rhythm for anyone.
Yeah, I'm just
For anyone who
owning it,
didn't know.
gotta own it, yeah.
I love that.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Frank, did you also want to add something?
it's a space I really like. It's a location I like too.
You
and
do.
It's a funky location, it
It
really
is.
is. But I think it's making it kind of a magnet. Certainly, it's going to help make it more of a magnet. And 25 o'clock is also just a wonderful venue. So anything that adds to that venue as well, I think is a plus.
It is, I mean, I had never spent time in that parking lot before this, ever, and now I really do think it's kind of a cool space. I did have a nice conversation with Mike Hosier, the building owner, when he stopped by to check on me one day, and he was mentioning that someday, and probably in the distant future, but there are train tracks right behind this parking lot, and someday that trail may come through there if they ever decide to, quit using those two. So who knows? This may end up being, there may be a bike trail right by it. Fingers crossed. So I think that this parking lot, things are going to kind of start happening there a little bit more. This building is going to have some work done on it in the not too distant future, and I think there may be an entrance from the parking lot into the building. So I think it's going to be a little more active going forward. So I think this was good timing to have this feature added.
Definitely.
I think it's wonderful, and I think it would be a wonderful backdrop for concerts, for, musicians to play in front of.
Wouldn't it?
Oh, I think it would be perfect. And
It'll be
the-
interesting to see if this parking lot starts being
Yeah.
used in any other ways,
Yeah, that'll be very
going
nice.
forward. Be interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Next up, we have E. and Miana Smith Stamps of the Champaign County Bailout Coalition presenting the 2021 Urbana Arts Grant Final Report for Sending Love, Transcending the Distance Through Art.
There we go.
Greetings. We doing this? Okay, hi.
Is this one on? Or?
Yeah, it should be. Oh, you just turned it off.
Oh, hi.
Hi, my name's E. Been volunteering with Champaign County Bailout Coalition for a couple years.
I'm Nani. Also been volunteering with CCBC for a few years, or maybe a couple.
And sometimes Cole helps out.
Oh, sometimes Cole helps out for sure. He's like he's like the bailout guy. We take him. He understands like why we exist, so it's pretty cool. We recently had a art project that we featured at two community events called Transcending the Distance Through Art. It was actually written about by two of our former members, who have had loved ones that were incarcerated, and just wanted to like kind of share a glimpse of their stories while introducing others' perspectives. So.
Yeah, this is a project that was handed over to us after those members moved on and out of this county. So I guess we're honoring them in some sort of way. And it was awarded to us during COVID, and there was a bit of a stall. So this is the current iteration of Transcending the Distance Through Art. This is Nani and myself and T, and then Molly is on the far left. Molly is one of the original writers of the grant. This is us at the HVNT Juneteenth celebration just this past month. We had brought the sculpture, which I'll show you shortly after I describe it. So we built three 6 foot by 3 foot by 1.5 foot movable graffiti walls and brought them to these two community events. The walls are made to engage the community through art making while sharing our mission of decarceration and bailing people out of pretrial detention. And in addition to the shout out walls, we had art supplies and envelopes for people to make art and compose letters to send to their incarcerated loved ones.
So here are the walls at the HVNT Juneteenth event. The turnout was great. We got a lot of community members that were introduced to CCBC for the first time. A lot of people that didn't know that we existed, and had some ideas for us how we could further engage the community and further promote our mission of decarceration and freedom. And more importantly, unity, which is what like the walls represent. People that didn't know, why the walls were out there, got to also share their messages. Calls for like love or justice. Some people had to reflect a little bit deeper. There were kids that were writing messages like "Free my cousin," Leroy, or and there was one woman that wrote, Juneteenth 2022, and we asked her about her message, and she's just like, it's a message of, freedom and unity. And we do know that Black folks in Champaign County are disproportionately incarcerated, disproportionately profiled, arrested, and so on and so forth. So I just thought that was really, it really spoke to me. And yeah, so I don't think that we can see her writing on this picture, but I think that one of the other pictures will show it.
Yeah, it's definitely featured on here soon. We also had a couple of people interested in volunteering with us. We got some emails and have been going back and forth with them, which is great because in the summer of 2020, as we all know, there was like a huge activist response to the murder. Why am I blanking on his? Thank you. Of many people. This is what nerves do to your brain. And we're kind of a smaller, very small group now. So it's been really great to come out into the community with this and start and like reignite that conversation through visual art. Did you already kind of summarize all
Pretty
this?
much summarized it. At the events, community members are able to either donate art, write letters to loved ones, or just shout them out on the walls. We also had sign-up sheets, for like forums to submit art at a later date, just for like keeping in touch. So the walls are still being filled out by art from the community. So far, we've had quite a few submissions, so we plan to post those on the walls today, tomorrow, at a later date.
Here's the Juneteenth event again, and you can see here more clearly the workshop kind of vibe that the tables have set up, and then also all of the flyers that we have about how you can help us, support us, volunteer, or just like spreading the word into community, and also how you can submit your artwork for consideration. Here's one of the original artworks that sparked this whole project.
Yeah, so this was donated to us by one of our former community members, former volunteers, the one that actually helped with writing the grant. So this was her story. Her son's father had been previously incarcerated, actually for the first 3 years of his life. And so one of the major ways that they had of expressing love between each other were to share art between, back and forth while he was in prison.
So the project lives on. We'll be having the walls and the artwork that we've collected so far on display at the IMC on September 3rd. We'll have an opening from 4 to 7, and it's going to be an interactive art installation with an open mic. Community members will be invited to use the supplies that we already have to write letters, make artwork, and add to the walls. I feel like that's in the spirit of graffiti, is that it's a layering of things, layering of expression. And so we've also been in contact with other local artists who are formerly incarcerated, such as Harvester Baker, and he's really excited about not only contributing artwork, but doing musical performances. So That's a really great connection that we made. Here's an example of one of the artworks framed and mounted on the wall, and as you can see, there's still some space to peek behind it and observe like the canvas. We're thinking about the wall serving as a canvas created by collective community effort, and it just shows like the palpable impact of the carceral system on the lives and loves of people in community. And we consider it a durational piece that will continue to grow and be used as a tool to educate people and invite them to share their stories. Oh,
Okay.
that was fast. So on behalf of us, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions or comments for E or Miana?
I applaud your dedication and all your efforts.
Thanks. Thank you.
I really love the idea of those movable graffiti walls, and again, everyone participating and adding something to that is fantastic, and this is an important conversation to have. So thank you both for bringing this to the attention of the community in this really beautiful way.
For sure, and thank you all again.
Yeah.
This
Thank
was
you.
a big conversation, especially when it was written, just to spread the message of more so overcoming the barrier of being separated forcefully through the incarceration system. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is a wonderful project. You had mentioned at the end that there was been some, like with the Hulk figure, that there were back and forth between someone who is a family member incarcerated. Have you thought or about whether you can work with some people who are incarcerated who would, kind of like respond to the work that you're producing from the outside or something like that? Or is that possible to do that? I'm not sure.
To communicate with folks that are currently incarcerated. So
to
that
contribute their art.
for them to contribute their art. So we have promotional flyers kind of pretty much all around like Champaign County. So it's kind of hard to seek those folks from the outside because the jail has these ridiculous rules around calling inmates, and they make it really, really a pain to get in touch with the folks that are inside the jail. So we just have to hope that their family members are, telling them about us. A lot of them are. A lot of them are, but for more urgent matters and then contributing their art. So we did compensate the artists for sending their pieces in, but I just think those conversations kind of dwindle when they're faced with something that's so heavy, especially when the loved one is still in the jail. It was that was kind of one of our bigger obstacles, thinking about how would it be predatory or kind of exploitative to seek out people that are incarcerated? Should we reach back to families, or should we let families come to us? So we had to really consider that. We didn't want to be insensitive because this is really heavy stuff for these families. So we just wanted folks to come to us. We kind of wanted more like a natural process. So,
Yeah, and that's kind of how we operate anyway. We don't solicit to the jails. We wait for people to contact us, and it's word of mouth. So all of the submissions that we've had so far are word of mouth, even though we do give the flyer to people. When we perform bailouts, it seems like there's a lot of other things I think that they need to suss out in their lives, and not necessarily immediately sending a piece of artwork to us. But like we said, it's still a living and breathing project, and we thank the Arts Commission so much for the funding, because I think we have so many tools now to move forward and bring these walls, or maybe not all three of them, but one of them to, we were talking about neighborhood nights, and what's the other campus one that Philip was talking about?
Neighborhood nights. Not sure. Maybe was it Quad Day? If that was a campus one.
I think we're gonna try to bring it to Quad Day, rustle it up. I don't know. See what happens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. we are really hopeful for like this project even moving forward. Just having people share their art, which is kind of their story. So that was pretty dope.
I know you may all already be collaborating with First Followers, EJP, you know, and independent folks. Like in the past, I was able, in another life, not so distant life, I had taught creative writing in the county jail for 2 years weekly. And it was like, this type of thing would also have been probably a wonderful thing for folks writing, you know, and to be able to put their work somewhere. So I think it is an exciting question to think about, that connectivity with even like existing classes or organizations. I'm not sure of which ones are going on right now, for instance, but it's really powerful, that opportunity to create a conversation where there are barriers. So thank you for that work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right.
Are we all done with our
We're
presentation?
done now with grant presentations.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
That's great. I think that's the most we've ever had at one meeting. Well, now we move to the Examine Urbana Existing Conditions Review for the Comprehensive Plan. City staff working on the City of Urbana's comprehensive plan will give a brief overview of Examine Urbana's Art and Culture chapter for commissioner review and input.
Yeah, but I think it's on right now.
Okay.
It says, please check the text input signal.
Is it?
Yep.
Up.
There we go.
Up.
Yeah.
Lone Ranger.
Well, thank you very much for having us here this evening to, you've done some homework in advance for this meeting. We really appreciate it. It's been a while since we've been here before the commission, and we've got some new members. So we thought I'm Andrea Rudy with the City of Urbana. I'm the Senior Advisor for Integrated Strategy Development, and my colleague, I'll let her introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm Lily Wilcock, and I'm a planner here at the City of Urbana.
So Lily and I are working on the comprehensive plan, which we hope to have done here in the next several months. But we thought we'd just give you a quick rundown on what is a comprehensive plan for those that weren't here before when we were here. So the comprehensive plan is our community's vision, and that's really what it's all about. And you'll learn about some of the outreach methods we did. It's the long-range planning guide for our city. It directs all future actions, and it also includes strategies to achieve goals and objectives by which all the decisions that the city makes are based on the comprehensive plan and those goals and objectives. And so there is a Q&A that's on our website. I won't click on this, but it'll go right to the city's website. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a question and answer on all the things that, just about anything you could ask about the comprehensive plan, and I didn't mean to do that. Let's go back here. Oops. Back to
It's
the
a good
PowerPoint.
test, though, because then you know the link
Sorry.
works.
Yeah, right?
I'm not getting to the PowerPoint.
Here, it's right
There we
there.
go. Got it. All right. So then we thought we wanted to tell you what a comprehensive plan is not, because there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of plans out there. So it's a document that it does not control private property, and that's something that is confusing to people, that they think the city has the right to control their property, and it doesn't. It's a long, oops. And it's not a neighborhood plan. Neighborhoods are very much a part of this plan. We've talked to a lot of neighborhoods, but it's a community-wide plan, and so it's very, very general in talking about the community as a whole. It's regularly reviewed and amended, so it's not a document that's going to sit there on the shelf. It really is a living document. It incorporates the existing approved plans. So many of our commissions we have the bicycle and pedestrian plan, the climate action plan. All of those are incorporated into this plan, so it doesn't ignore the plans that already exist. And it's a guide that, again, like I mentioned before, for making decisions that impact our city. So comprehensive plan is a very important thing to have. All municipalities do have a comprehensive plan, and the last one we had was in 2005. And if you go on our website, you'll also see that. We had Lily led an effort on assessing the 2005 plan and lesson learned, so that's in there as well. And there's that Q&A. And then just a quick rundown of our engagement. So this past year, we spent time in trying to engage the community into meaningful conversations about what they thought our city should look like in the future. And we made a special effort to try to engage people that don't normally or traditionally get involved in the government process. So you can see here, this is a timeline that goes back prior to 2001 and is extending into this year, of course. Boards and commissions and council meetings, in-person interviews. We went door to door in several neighborhoods that we don't normally hear from, and talked with people on their doorsteps. We had a lot of neighborhood meetings. Some of these neighborhoods hadn't really come together before, and so hopefully we've now got a foundation to have these conversations with neighborhoods in the future. The Urbana planning class, or urban planning class from the UIUC, was with us for a spring semester and fall semester, and they were instrumental in giving us the manpower to go out door to door and really talk with folks, and very meaningful, and really targeting not only these different audiences, but events in those neighborhoods, which gave them a sense of comfort level in talking with us instead of us going out to them. And then, of course, we had our website, imagineurbana.com. It had an idea wall where people could post ideas. It had a survey. It had a Urbana Places map where people could post things. And so that's where most of our community engagement came from. And so then the next thing we're working on, and I'll turn this over to Lily, is Examine Urbana, which is the existing conditions of, and I'll let her talk about what the purpose and the chapter that you reviewed.
Yeah, and just a quick note, this is actually an upcoming document. We'll have a full write-up on this soon. That was in the next couple of months, and that you'll be able to see more about that process of engaging different parts of Urbana. So for Examine Urbana, I cannot thank you enough for all the comments that we did receive. This is a draft process where it's what a lot of communities would produce something called existing conditions. It's who we are, what we are, why did we get here, kind of document that helps you kind of inform where you're going in the future, some trends and issues to look out for in the next upcoming plan. What we wanted to do was do things a little bit differently this time. We wanted to really provide people with a really people-centered conversation about what we do here, and really kind of spell that out and use data that's much more Urbana specific rather than focusing on a national trend or national statistics that kind of can homogenize Urbana. Oftentimes we can be clumped into little pools. Instead, really show kind of how vibrant the community is by putting the people front and center for that conversation. We also find that it is very difficult to comment on the comprehensive plan and other planning documents when the processes of local government aren't something that we do very often and really dissect and kind of talk about. So I'm going to click on the arts and culture, but you can see that there are 8 chapters, and 4 of them are under development. They say coming soon. Another 4 of them are going to commissions such as yourself in the next coming month. So,
and you really get a sneak preview. You are the first commission to see one of the chapters, and this site is not public yet, and so we appreciate your review.
Yeah, we really wanted to make sure that we can incorporate your feedback before it goes live, because as you do see, even though we did try to be brief and we didn't try to be comprehensive in our coverage of all of these chapters and these subjects, they are fairly substantial reads. So expecting folks to read them 2-3 times or 4 times is quite an ask. Asking folks to commit the time for one read through is deeply appreciative, and I'm always grateful. So for arts and culture, we do go through here, and this is something that you should have looked at, and if you haven't looked at, please, I can't encourage it enough. Our inbox is always open for filling out one of those optional surveys after reading it. For folks who did comment, thank you so much. And just for the public, there's a brief history, and it goes through the impact. It talks a little bit about just the tip of the iceberg for arts and culture program and its impact in Urbana, Champaign County, the state of Illinois, really folks who are here visiting, but also for its residents. And then it does have this very brief section called future considerations. Every chapter has them. We know that we are talking about a lot of things and seeing through the forest and seeing what are some of the things that we want to consider for the future. We throw out a couple of questions for people to think about, really get the conversation going. And it's something that we'll probably come back to, later on for further public engagement with the community as a whole. So for tonight, and here's a little brief snippet of the future considerations. Please go through those if you haven't. I know that many arts and culture commissioners have, and that's awesome. I can't wait to share this with the community. So we talk a little bit about a few different topics for the future. So tonight, I know that many of you have read it. I would just love to share a couple of those thoughts and feedback that you did give about the chapter. If there was anything else that you wanted to add to the chapter, wanted to see us ask any questions, we're here for that.
So I think if you had any overall comments, I know, like I said, Lily, Lily and I have read the feedback that you've given us, but if you want to share that, because that was only seen by us, if there's something you'd like to share with your other commission members or the public.
Well, I mean, I really loved seeing all the photos of our community and how vibrant it is, and how many people really do show up to these kind of things that we can put out there. As someone that used to live in New York City and will have friends now ask me, how can you stand to live in the place that you are now? It's in the middle of corn, but they've never been here. And they don't know how it is like Green Acres in the East Village had a love child. And I think that a lot of the imagery and information that was on there was a good representation of that. And it's really nice to be able to see it in both pictures and words. And I also really loved the videos. I don't think I mentioned that in any of my comments, but I liked how seamless some of the motion was as you were scrolling through and looking at that. And it really added a nice accent that told us that this is a very living place where people are really able to, sometimes you have to seek it out, but you can find your niche here and you can find people that will embrace exactly who you are. And that's a wonderful thing about our community, and it's nice to see that represented here. Thank you.
It was not as easy to do that for things like transportation. I will say that right now.
I can imagine.
Not as engaging.
And I should say this, that Rachel Storm was instrumental in every step of the way in making sure that we captured this, providing us with data, facts, figures, and then we... Absolutely.
That's right.
If it was shared on our Facebook page, it's probably going to be used in this.
But your comment about New Yorkers having that attitude, I think there's a lot of people in this community that still fall in that category. They really don't know what is going on in the arts and culture scene. If you don't get involved with it, you are sometimes ignorant of what's happening. So
Well, and I
hopefully
also
this will
think in
spread the
terms
news.
of drawing new people into town, if they know that those things are here for them, I think they're more likely to consider moving here, even if they're coming from a big city. I think there are a lot of people now that are considering moving out of big cities into communities like this. And I think if there's something like this where they can check it out ahead of time before they even visit and say, there might be some stuff for me in Urbana, I think that's helpful. So.
Yeah, and for the rest of Urbana and for all of our visitors and for our workers here and everything, this experience isn't widely known. So for all of the chapters, we're just trying to build this basis of understanding, of a little bit of time to ask you some questions, because we're going to come back with a future plan in the future, near future.
You gave us an idea also. There's a New to See You program. I don't know if you've seen that in the news. I think it would be great for us to share the arts and culture, this, really the history and what's going on with that group when we do make it public. I think they would enjoy that.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and I love the site. And I always think it was very kinetic. The video, and the way it moved was very nice. The colors, there was diversity on multiple levels, on diversity of the arts, diversity of the people that were engaging in the arts. And I you know, sometimes when people, like you were saying, and sometimes they think, oh, New York, that's where culture is at, or that's where you have a lot of things that you can do there. And I think, no, there's a lot going on here, and there's always something going on, and I miss a lot. And I'm thinking of, you know, just the presentations today of the all these wonderful projects. I couldn't participate in that. So there's a lot more going on than we're aware of, and I think you did a really good job. And I was talking with you about it before too, Rachel, is that you didn't even cover everything on the website. So there's even more than what's on the website. So I think you did a wonderful job. I think it's
And
great.
you made the comment about, there's so much more. Are there areas that have been missed that, seem obvious that we ought to include?
Not that I can think of. No.
Okay.
Well, that's great, because it's already a little bit long.
Yeah, we gotta cut on the editor's
No, I've
floor.
been
hard to
like
load.
percolating on it the longest because I've been working directly with these two staff members to help create it. But I keep thinking about the feedback questions at the end, or the future consideration questions. And I still don't have an answer exactly. They're sort of percolating in my head, but I feel like there's sort of like, there's a question about space and infrastructure, right? There's a question about, that seems kind of connected to space. Like there's about 2 questions that seem connected to space and infrastructure, is that right?
Yeah, public
And
spaces and private.
I keep thinking too about whenever we talk about, especially in the art scene, we'll talk about, opportunities for artists and who are our local artists and who's engaging, who's looking for work right now, what's going on. And I keep also always coming back to how are we cultivating like the next generation of artists. So that could be something that's around future, especially given it's a 20-year plan, the 4-year-olds of Urbana are going to be writing the next comprehensive plan potentially. So, just thinking about like what efforts are we making to both diversify, create greater equity and inclusion in the arts, but also to shepherd in the next generation, especially when sometimes we're wanting at the same time to attract national talent. We come across this conversation a lot related to like national calls, which we only participate in, I would say, one of those, which is the sculpture call. And most of our things are limited to Champaign County or even Urbana specifically, but mostly Champaign County. But it's like, I always want to also couple that with like, what are we doing to cultivate more experiences for artists to gain, and then Urbana to be their launch pad, not necessarily out of this community, but actually to becoming nationally recognized artists that call Urbana their home. Like that's another thing I think about, and I don't know where it would fit in with the future considerations. But
I think that what you're talking about, I can't wait for the draft plan process, because when you get into a comprehensive plan, we get all these really amazing, very specific questions. So if, for instance, we were back in 2005, there wasn't a public arts program, you want to say you want to prioritize or make it a goal of the city to look for public art, but the details of the 1% in your bylaws or the details of a staffer, like a lot of that gets fleshed out in a much bigger process on that specific topic later down. So capturing some of this for the comprehensive plan is important, but then keeping this in the mind of a greater, larger process specific for that is also really important follow-up to it. Comprehensive plan is almost as good as the process that follows it, the implementation of it.
And Lily mentioned that we're going to summarize this community engagement phase that we went through, and we do have to say that the arts was a huge part of the feedback that we received. So your efforts are being recognized, and it is an important part of our community that's recognized by the people that we talk to.
And if I may, I know that I believe maybe Howie, you're still listening on the phone, and because you're not here in person, I know Howie's often our like resident advocate for youth. So we all advocate for youth, but Howie does a fabulous job advocating for youth in this space. So I'm thinking too about like that question about cultivating the next generation being one that I could imagine being on your mind, Howie, if you're listening. And I just wanted to invite you to give any feedback, since I'm sure it's difficult to jump in when you're on the phone. If you're with us.
Maybe not. I could speak to that a little bit, because
Yeah.
I present for the Champaign-Urbana Symphony, we have presented music in the schools at no charge for decades. And I personally, but it's self-serving, I would like to see it continue and get into more and more communities, because we lost a lot of activity because of
Sure.
COVID. We got into 22 schools before COVID hit, and we've managed just to get back into 3 so far. But it's also a process that the schools have to be ready and willing to have it again. But I would like to see it get into more communities, and not just, perhaps not even in the schools, but if we could take, like, we have art in public spaces, we could take music into public spaces.
Absolutely.
And I think we heard one of those comments, and it could have been your comment that was saying not just focusing on downtown events, but getting out into the neighborhoods, bringing the arts to people.
Well, that was originally partly what we were thinking of when we founded this commission, was to get more and more people to come to downtown Urbana and spend their disposable time and their disposable dollars. But we keep expanding.
Organically and beautifully, right?
Yeah, and people appreciate it. They
Yeah.
always comment about it, to me at least.
Commissioner Randall.
Yes, I have a question. You talked about the public comments. Is there a way to incorporate that into the website? So you not only get comments about events and programs that are done, and it's sort of like where people can almost have like a bulletin board kind of like postings of
Yeah,
that
I'm
can be
glad
added
you-
to the website. I'm wondering if that's possible.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because we do have a online website that we can add tools that, there are a lot of different collaboration and public input tools built into that website. The only catch, and this is a really interesting one about websites, is you catch a certain segment of Urbana, and it is only a certain segment of Urbana that collaborates and puts public input on a website. So that's why you saw on that timeline last year when we were doing that general public feedback, that the website was alive and we were collecting feedback through that whole year. But while we were doing that, we were recognizing that we were only capturing that the folks who feel the most comfortable providing public feedback. And also, oftentimes, I think a segment that felt the most emboldened and empowered to give their voice to the comprehensive plan. So then there was a lot of different ways we had to go into door knocking in different areas that we saw low participation, standing at stores and tabling.
Community partner events.
Community partner events like Head Start. And so with that, we had to kind of do a little bit of a hybrid approach. So a hybrid approach with using this page to collect that and set it up online for we're looking at vendors right now for having something that is kind of trade-off based for our next phase of the comprehensive plan, something that spells out for folks that we do work within a lot of constraints at the City of Urbana, but we do want to prioritize certain things. That's something that helps us do that on the website. But then how to do that, we're going to try to morph that into an in-person event that we'll have in various locations in town.
How welcoming were people when you went around to the homes and you're knocking on doors? Did they treat you like solicitors, or were they willing to talk to you?
They were very welcoming.
Yeah.
We were kind of shocked.
Stranger, right here.
Yeah, and we had college students with us too.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
young men, young women. So
Saturday morning, Thursday
exactly. Or
evening.
like after they've just gotten home from work. Here we are knocking
They're carrying
on their door.
groceries,
Yeah.
and I'm
And
like,
we would try to be mindful when we saw somebody just drive into the driveway that we'd circle around and get them maybe a little bit later.
He was,
Let them carry the
but
groceries
I
indoors.
maybe wasn't as mindful of that. I should have thought that far.
Or
but-
they're going out to walk their dog, and you're like, whoa.
The thing that was amazing was in these areas that have the lowest participation, folks were the most likely to stop everything and give us a very, very generous and polite and large amount of time, whether they're wearing PJs on a Saturday afternoon, and it was 35 degrees out and kind of blustery. Like, people were really opening and welcome. And even if they weren't sure what a comprehensive plan was, that's could be said for a lot of folks who work with the comprehensive plan. It is kind of something that it's flexible and you make it into something. They were very receptive into using their imagination and their creativity to talk about and describe the issues that they have, what they see in the neighborhood, the things that they love. And that was a lot of the public engagement that we conducted in 2021.
And I think you just kind of hit it too, as far as a lot of those people door to door, they wanted to tell you what they loved. Loved about their neighborhood, loved about the community, and you don't always see that on a website. That tends to be more, okay, what we don't like.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought that was just, the feel-good moments were multi-generational comments. You'd go to an apartment building, and there would be an older person kind of holding court out in the hallway, and then a young person comes down the stairs and joins your conversation. And that was just, something that you're not going to get on a website, to have those types of conversations.
Frankly, that was kind of one of our best lessons that we learned was the door-to-door was probably our most successful participation, whereas the website was a much different tone. It was
Yeah.
very, very different, and it just collected a lot of familiar voices in the city process. But what we found, too, was even the neighborhood groups that we would usually in the city partner with are all in periods of rebuilding or reorganizing, and they have lower capacity than what we were anticipating. So that door-to-door component, the older gentleman holding court in the apartment stairwell was something that people are using in a very substantive way to get information and have conversations that we're hoping to kind of hear.
And I think something that's relevant for this group too, when you're trying to outreach and let people know about what's going on, when we were going door to door, we would ask people, how do you get information about your city, about your community? And many of them, even social media isn't a regular thing for them. They're hearing it from their neighbors. They're hearing it from their apartment manager, what's going on. And so all of us are kind of taking a step back and how do we let people know what's really happening in our community? Because we think it's everywhere. Well, in fact, one of our door-to-doors, we heard at the time the Hotel Royer was big in the news because they were having a kind of semi-groundbreaking for it. People were asking us, so are they ever going to do anything about that hotel? We think everybody knows about it. They don't because they're not, engaged in those conversations. So I think for arts and culture, it's similar. How do you outreach? And we think of new ways to do that. I think the pandemic helped us in some regards in finding new ways to outreach.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Oh, just one more,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
one more note, sorry. I was thinking too, one thing about the public input process that I would love to invite and see would be and I think we could all benefit, is a question about what for you, resident or group or organization, is missing from the Urbana arts and culture scene. And, answers will tell a story, whether it's, they don't know that it's there and it exists, or it truly is missing. And what is that, what does it illuminate about what residents need? I keep thinking about some conversations I've had with community members who, want to see a particular kind of space, or, even when I think about infrastructure, I think this is a town without a dedicated movie theater. This is a town without a dedicated theater. Cranert Center notwithstanding.
Yeah.
This is a town without we do still really need those infrastructure. So I think that infrastructure question is super important, but I want to kind of connect it to broader questions of kind of improving upon existing spaces, cultivating arts, the creative sector itself through the job creation, arts businesses, shepherding the next generation, but also what I think will be a challenge, and I assume it's a challenge every time we engage in a comprehensive planning process, is we have all of these categories. And so the next thing will be having to integrate them. How does, how does arts and culture integrate with climate action and, with diversity, inclusion, et cetera. So kind of thinking about how they all, because they're, that's the interconnected part that's probably into the next phase of planning. But when we were having one of our visioning processes, and right now Barbara's the only one that was in the room at that juncture, our last visioning session, we were talking a lot about the relationship between public safety and the arts, how it actually creates more safety to have activities, engagement in the community, ways of connecting, but also just frankly things to do and places to go, that keep people engaged and away from things that are wayward and harmful for them and others. So, it's that engagement that helps connect people to where they are. So I don't know where that fits, but I've been thinking about how these categories are all very important and reflect, of course, our commissions and the ways that we think, but also then messing it and getting it a little bit more interdisciplinary and stuff.
And I
Right,
think-
it looks like it's all silos
Yeah.
here, and that's something that we're hearing over and over. I mean, they all are intertwined. Transportation
Sure,
is
yeah.
part of arts and culture. How do you get there, you know, and, so
Just
yes.
writing about these chapters, it's hard for you to talk about transportation without talking about neighborhood health. Like, it's really difficult without
But they
starting to
represent
get-
a deep dive, which I think
Exactly,
is really,
right,
really valuable.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, there's plenty, every single story map in here has a reference to another story chapter.
And
And
then,
so-
two overriding themes that are interwoven throughout them all are equity and sustainability. You don't see those as standalone chapters because they're part of every one of the chapters.
Well, you do in the chapters, but you won't in the plan.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
And that's actually a really good point about trickling up from these really amazing ideas, is making sure that the comprehensive plan has the infrastructure in its goals and objectives to support what you're thinking as far as these much more much more intensive in action items, and also set up for like longer term things for specifics. Community-wide infrastructure.
When you think about it, talking about events, I once counted up the number of businesses that would be involved in producing a concert, for example. And it was about 35 businesses, and the economic impact of the arts on the community and what it does to bring people to the area. And it's certainly something we want to continue to nourish.
That's right. The Visitors and Conventions Bureau has data on that, and yes, it's amazing. You know, we just really don't understand the true impact. We that live here don't understand the impact that it really does have.
And Rachel actually turned us over to a public arts calculator. So we actually typed in a couple of festivals that are regularly funded by the city and provide that.
Come on in. We're just wrapping up.
Yep. And so we were able to calculate some of that for the Folk and Roots Festival.
But please,
Thank
if
you.
you have any other thoughts after we've had this dialogue, it starts getting you to percolate a little bit, please send us your comments. We really would like to see that before, again, we're not going to be making this public for a few weeks, so have plenty of time to give us some more comments.
Oh, yes, it's
Oh, I
much
saw
better
that.
on a
You
computer.
read the whole thing on your phone. I saw that.
But it's good you did the mobile test for everyone.
Yeah, she certainly did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
There's some things that I really regret about ArcGIS, the Esri infrastructure for this project, and one of them was their mobile capacity.
Yeah.
It's very.
But it is stunning, and I just commend you both with the work on it. It's
Well,
really wonderful.
Rachel was instrumental, and Lily and Rachel were spent many, many, many hours together working on
And
this.
Barbara, this is the CU Symphony Orchestra.
That's why I
show
pulled
that
it
you
up.
probably
Here's Tamara
played.
Gingold, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
there's
so-
Tamara Gingold
So,
right there.
Tamara.
so keep those pictures coming, right? Well, thank you
Yeah,
again for
thank you
having us
so
this
much.
evening, and it was apropos to see all the grant recipients tonight too, because it just kind of culminates in all the activity that's going on. So exciting to be part of it.
Thank you
Thank
for all
you.
your hard
Thank
work.
you both for coming. Yep.
Very much appreciated. Do we have any other new business before we call for an adjournment?
I don't believe so.
Do we need to have a vote? Do you want to nominate it?
Second, third.
Okay.
Second, third, and fourth.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.